there, my name's Gill Tiny. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learnt an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome back to the Being Human Hidden Depths podcast with me, Gill Tiny, and my very special guest, Tara Gooch. Welcome, Tara.
Hey, thank you so much for having me today, Jill.
Well, thank you for being here. This is a bit special for us because we normally have our members from Collaboration Global and the showcase of the podcast is for them to kind of show off their genius and how wonderful they are. Although they go, oh, I'm nothing special. And I'm like, yeah, you are, definitely. You are one of those people that are kind of the exception to the rule, easily the exception to the rule, because we met not that long ago, actually about 6 months ago or more, when we started our TEDx talks, and we did them in the same room. So although you're the other side of the pond in America, you actually traveled all the way over to the UK to do your TEDx talk. And I was so enthralled by what you talked about, your subject matter. I thought we could unpick it and explore some more here today. So that's why I've invited you along, because I believe everyone that listens to this podcast, everyone that's a member of Collaboration Global, everyone probably on this planet, bar one or two, can identify with your story and what you're talking about, and how we can overcome the problems that we have. Can I just ask one quick question? You've got Tara Gooch on your name here. And then when we go onto LinkedIn, if anybody wants to go searching for you, it's Tara LaFon Gooch.
Tara LaFon Gooch, yep.
Is there a reason why? Is that any? I'm just nosy.
Well, my maiden name is LaFon, and when I got married, I didn't want to drop LaFon because I like it. It's unique. And the thing of it is, I wanted to be I have a very unique and memorable name.
Yeah, don't waste it.
So Tara LaFon Gooch, I don't know if there's another one on this planet. Maybe there is.
Yeah.
You'll have to do some digging for me, but I think I may be one of the only ones on this planet.
Yeah.
So it's a catchy name. It's very easily memorable and searchable because it's so unique.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I identify with that as well, because Tiny is my maiden name. And when I got married at the tender age of 21, which seems crazy nowadays, I became Mrs. Brown. And when everybody met Mrs. Brown and they hadn't spoken to Mrs. Brown before, or they hadn't seen me before, Mrs. Brown, they were expecting a middle-aged woman. So I disappointed them somewhat. And when I started my own business, I've been in business since '88 with my husband, but then I started one all on my own. And I said to him, do you mind if I'm not Gill Brown? Would it matter if I could be Gill Tiny? Because then people will remember me. Because yes, I am short. I am tiny. So, and that's where we went. I didn't go down the double-barreled name. So I know exactly what you mean. I think I am the only Gill Tiny on the planet. So maybe we'll find out one way or the other. So they can search for us, so long as they spell it right.
That's right.
Tara LaFon, LaFon Gooch, as you would expect it to be called. So Tara, let's go back to the summer of 2023, when we met. I mean, obviously we'd had online meetings like you do to kind of meet each other. We got to know the other people that were doing the TEDx talk. We got to understand each other's stories. But the first time we met in person and got to give each other a hug, which was wonderful, was over in Nottingham in about October, November time. We had our first rehearsal for the TEDx event that was happening in the January 24. And your talk was entitled The Foundation of Confidence. And you epitomize confidence to me. You know, I'm not even confident enough to wear the red lipstick on a regular basis. You know, seriously, I do wear red lipstick, but I've got to be in the right frame of mind to get away with it, you know? And you just knock it out the ballpark every single time. I love it. And when you walk across the room, your body language is confident. So I'm guessing I'm going, oh well, she's been like that for all of her life. She's been that person that's like her parents have put that into her. Her parents have held her up high and said, "You're wonderful, you're amazing. This child can do anything." And off you go, and you do. But when we heard the story, it wasn't quite like that. So can you kind of share with us one the beginning of your journey with confidence or lack of it, and then how you kind of came out the other end?
Yeah, absolutely. So confidence was something that I never felt. It's kind of like if you have a money mindset issue,
Mm,
success can seem like it's for other people.
yeah.
Being rich seems out of your hands. It doesn't seem tangible, right? You look at other people, they're successful. You look at them and you say, oh my gosh, you have this house, this car, anything you want. You must have been born that way.
Yeah, it's true.
We
Yeah.
all have these perceptions of other people. And confidence is the same way. If you're suffering from a lack of confidence, you look at somebody who's very confident, they've always been that way. They were born that way.
Mm,
Maybe then you look at them and you say, but it's for them, it's not for me. This is my reality, right? And it seems intangible. It doesn't seem like you can develop it,
mm.
especially if you're very lacking confidence, just the same as if you're financially bankrupt. It seems insurmountable, right? And I use that analogy because it's just easy to understand. I think anybody has gone through financial hardships in their life, right?
Yeah.
So a lack of confidence was always that thing that held me back. And, this is why I chose to talk about this exact topic because I wanted people to know that it doesn't matter what you look like. The perception that we have of other people is completely different than the perception those people have of themselves.
Mm,
So growing up for me, I came from a broken home. My father was an alcoholic. He was abusive. I
mm.
haven't seen him since I was 14, right? I didn't put that all in my talk because we have a very short amount of time to talk about these things
Yeah.
on the TEDx stage. But that environment, I'm also the youngest of five, so I always just kind of felt like a number,
Yeah.
right? I grew up in poverty, didn't have much. And I was never the smart one. I was never the good looking one. I was just one.
Yeah.
So I never had a good amount of confidence. And it seemed like it was for other people. And it didn't matter what I looked like on the outside. I never felt complete within myself. And then as I grew up, as I went to college and university, I doubted myself, right? I had the imposter syndrome. I had toxic work environments that really brought down my confidence. Toxic managers yell at me constantly, right? And belittle me and bullying even at work. And
Yeah.
I was bullied through school as well. So you have all these external forces in your life, and you don't feel good about yourself anyway because of the way maybe you were brought up or just something, right?
Mhm. Mm.
And then it just continually brings down that confidence level.
Yeah.
And it comes to a point, right? We all hit that kind of breaking point.
Mm.
And for me, it was, I was going through toxic work environments. I'd recently been diagnosed with major depressive disorder. So when you go to the doctors and they ask you to check all these boxes,
Mm-hmm.
I remember checking every single one.
Oof. Wow. Was that a
And
revelation to you at that point? Was that kind of a realization of like, oh, okay.
Yes.
This isn't normal.
This is not normal. Right. And I think you think it's normal because that's your reality.
Yeah.
And then they ask you to check all these boxes like, have you thought about suicide?
Mm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you considered how many times? Like, oh my gosh, right?
Yeah.
And that was my view into, oh, this is not right. I guess something's not right. Now, in my family, a lot of us have been diagnosed with depression.
Okay.
So it was nothing like anomalous for me, but that's another thing. It's your reality because
Mm.
that's what you know. So
Yeah.
it seems normal. So I was diagnosed with major depressive disorder and anxiety. I had been put on antidepressive medication and it didn't help.
Oh, gosh.
And I just kept spiraling down. Now, in the United States, where I live, we don't have free healthcare.
Yeah.
And my insurance took off that medication that I was on and didn't provide support for it any longer.
Oh.
And I couldn't leave my job to go to all these doctor's appointments. And I had to stop taking depression medication.
Oh, wow.
And then you go from taking it and then stopping taking it. And it was like that stew of kind of events that happened.
Mm.
And it was in 2022 when I hit that rock bottom point that I mentioned in my talk.
Yeah. Wow. It's a different world that you describe, Tara, because as you say, in this world, we don't have to consider, can I afford this? Is this the right job for my healthcare? Is this going to look after me? We take it for granted, which is awful, that we can turn and we have a doctor to go to and go, I can't do this anymore, I need some help. And they will find someone for you, whether it's just someone to talk to or whether it's medication, whatever works. It's a really, the stress and the pressure of that in the back of your mind on its own is enough to cause you anxiety, isn't it? If you haven't got the money to look after your health, your physical or your mental health. So you've hit rock bottom. You've probably done the worst thing in your mind and your heart that you ever thought you would do. What was the turning point? When did you kind of start coming up to the person I see in front of me, not that many years later, being the epitome of confidence? And I know looks can be deceptive. I know we're not in an Instagram world, and I know in the real world we still have stuff that goes on. And you've said to me just before this session that you've had some bad news today. Only last Friday I had 2 people die on me, which was very inconvenient. But also it reverberates in your life, but you still put on the face and the smile and let's do this and we could do this and it's okay. And we know we can get through it, but we shouldn't necessarily have to when you need that support. So going back to my question, what was the point when you went, do you know what, I need to kind of kick into touch and start working for myself, working on myself?
Yeah, so I will say this, I'm a mother, right? So at the time I had a 5 to 6 year old daughter, right? So I have one child during all this time, she was between 5 and 6 years old.
Wow.
And I remember asking her, would you miss me?
Mm. Mm.
Thankfully, she said yes.
Right answer. What's her name?
Right answer. Because if she wouldn't have, I don't know if I could have stopped myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, oh goodness. The thing about it
Yeah.
is that I made this turning point because I couldn't go that route any longer.
Yeah.
So my one last ditch effort was to completely change everything. So while I was at this rock bottom point,
Mm.
I said, okay, I'll give one last shot for, and something told me I need 6 weeks.
Yeah.
6 weeks. That just message kept coming on my mind. You need 6 weeks. You need 6 weeks. You need 6 weeks.
Okay.
So I said, okay, 6 weeks. For 6 weeks, I didn't watch television. I didn't get on social media.
Oh, well done.
I didn't eat sugar. I didn't eat
Hey.
fried foods. I didn't eat hardly any processed or packaged foods.
Was this a choice? Was this like, I know this is bad for me, so I'm going to leave it? Or was it just like, I don't want it at the moment. I'm just going to avoid it because it doesn't interest me? Were you
I
aware of how damaging it could be?
well, I don't think any of us are aware of how damaging it is until we remove it from our lives.
Yeah. Wow.
And I said, okay, so for 6 weeks, I'm going to completely do a 180.
Right.
And I started exercising every day, cleaned up my diet. In that 6 weeks, I think I lost 15 or 18 pounds.
Wow. Handy.
Yeah, handy, right? But my mindset completely shifted.
Mm.
And then I said, okay, so and I also didn't drink alcohol, which is a depressant.
Yes. Yeah.
So for those 6 weeks, I gave up all that stuff. And after the 6 weeks was over, I realized I'm a different person. Now, that's not completely sustainable to do your whole life,
Mm.
potentially. You can. It's not something I wanted to do my whole life, that challenge, if you will, but
Yeah.
how can I take this good starting point where I'm at now? I'm starting to feel a little bit better about myself. I'm losing weight. I'm feeling healthy. I have more energy. I'm less depressed. I don't have as much anxiety anymore.
Mm.
And now, how can I just make steady improvements in that same direction?
Mm-hmm.
And I literally just started improving myself about 1% every day.
Mm.
And 2 years later, I'm the byproduct.
Gosh.
So it, the thing of it is, I'm a huge believer in this 1% method because it's attainable for us all.
Mm-hmm.
But if you do this over the course of 365 days, you're 37 times improved. We know this, it's easy math.
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to be the same person you were before. And in fact, you may not even be recognizable.
Mm.
And I'm not. I'm not recognizable.
Incredible.
So chronologically, I'm 2 years older. I think I look 10 years younger.
Yeah.
I'm much more confident because I kept doing things for growth and towards growth,
Do
things that
you
were scary, even,
do
right?
you think you have reinvented yourself, or do you think you've kind of gone back to like when you reboot your computer and start from scratch? Do you feel like you've just gone back to square one and you've got a clean slate and you could start again?
Well, I would say I've reinvented myself. Um, I don't want to start from scratch because there were lessons there that I learned
Nice.
that made me get to this point. And I think there's a lot of wisdom there. There's a saying, the journey is the destination.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I wouldn't take any of that back. It was painful. It
Yeah.
was hard. It was very challenging. But it taught me so much. One, about myself, but two, just about life in general.
Yeah.
And without those hardships, I wouldn't be able to do what I do today. There's no way. There's no way I could speak on stage and talk about these things and uplift other people and transform their lives.
So after your 6 week period, and you realize that life can actually be better, and I don't need the tablets, and I don't need um, to, to live the life I used to lead. When did you realize that confidence was seeping into you, or did you just go, no, I'm going to be confident? Did you just choose to be? Was it a kind of decision you made, or was it just something that you look back and go, wow, I'm quite confident now? How did that happen?
Well, I want to say this because everybody asks me that question because on the surface it seems like I'm very, very confident.
Yeah.
Everybody struggles. I want to say that. Like, and if anybody says this is how to become confident and you're never going to go back and you'll never have problems with it again and da da da, they're full of it, right? Or they're trying to sell you a pill or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. What I will say is I still struggle with imposter syndrome, right?
Yeah.
There are times where I still struggle,
Mm.
and that's okay. It's called being normal and being a human being.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can only go as far as our thoughts, right? The magical part, I will say, with this journey is that when those negative thoughts do seep into my mind, I'm able to immediately reframe them into something positive.
Yeah.
So it's not to say that you're never going to have a negative thought about yourself or somebody else or some situation, but when those negative thoughts do arise, that
Mm.
you're able to reframe them into something positive, into something that's a growth opportunity for you.
Mm.
And say, you know what, I am deserving of this. And welcoming it into your life and embracing things.
Mm.
It takes, this is a lifestyle change. This is, again, it's just like exercise. It's like working out. You don't work out a couple of times and you're Arnold Schwarzenegger,
Heaven forbid.
right?
Yeah, 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 you're right.
It's a
It takes
lifestyle.
time. It's a mindset and a heart set for who you are and what you want to be. And it does take practice, you're right. Once you kind of realize my thoughts on how I choose them to be, I'm not beholden to these weird thoughts that come into my head. You know, they come in, but I choose whether I'm going to do anything about them. I'll give you a classic example I talk about a lot is when you're in the car and somebody cuts you up in the car, so, and they're trying to, and you go, whoa, and you put your brakes on. And I'm like, oh, bless them. And my husband's like, you're joking. What's going on? Get after him. Tell him he can't, put your horn on. And I said, no, he's in a rush. Obviously, he needs to get somewhere fast. Maybe it's the hospital. Maybe he's got a pregnant woman in the car and he's getting her because she's in labor. Maybe he just needs to get to the toilet. Okay, maybe he's an idiot as well and he nearly just had an accident. But that I'm not going to make myself angry over somebody else doing something idiotic. I like, oh, bless him. Oh, hope he's okay. Hope he doesn't get in an accident. I can't do anything to influence that person in the car, but I can influence how I think about it. So it's taking that time for me. And it happened, as you say, we all suffer imposter syndrome. I mean, getting up on that stage at the TEDx talk, people go, are you nervous? Are you nervous? Are you nervous? I'm like, well, I wasn't until you asked me. It's like, I'm trying so hard not to be nervous.
Oh,
But,
wow.
the butterflies were going, weren't they? You can't not have that situation. But
Yes.
it's choosing the dialogue that's going through your head so that you can say, yes, other people have done better TED Talks than me. But you know what? There's a lot of people that have done worse, and I have a message that people need to hear. So even if I'm appalling, I've got this opportunity and I'm not going to waste it. And I'm going to do it the best I possibly can. And you, if I may say so, my darling, you nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. And my hands were sore from clapping after you'd finished. Plus, the frock you wore was gorgeous, but that's another thing. Um, but you also talked not just about the confidence, but about the outcome, the cause of your confidence being gratitude.
Mm, yes. Yes.
And I just love that
Yes.
fundamental of what you're talking about. How did you come to that? When was that realization?
Yeah, so I will say this, there's a lot of fake it till you make it's out there. There's a lot of
Yeah.
tips to build confidence that are inauthentic. That was never something I could prescribe to because I've tried to fake it my whole life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Guess what? It doesn't work.
Mm,
Just like I said in my talk, I felt like I was wearing a mask.
yeah.
when I was at work, I felt like I was wearing a mask all the time because when you're suffering from depression, you do wear a mask. You do.
Exhausting. Yeah.
And you do that because you don't want to seem like you're untouchable, right? So you wear a mask to try to blend in or fit in or whatever. Guess what? I had faked it my whole life.
Mm.
I know that that is not a source for sustainable confidence. And I can say that with confidence because I lived it.
Yeah.
For me, my whole life began to change when I started to develop a relationship with gratitude. And I refer to it as a relationship because gratitude for me was not something I could just check off a box and say, oh, done my gratitude for the day. It was a lifestyle change, just like what I talked about building confidence. Gratitude is a lifestyle change as well.
Mm.
And it's actually developing a relationship with it. And, you know, there was one book that really changed my perspective on gratitude. And I read this as I was going through this pivotal transitional moment in my life. And the book is The Science of Getting Rich. Now, it talks about, how to become wealthy, all these things. But the chapter that stuck out to me the most was chapter 7. It was gratitude. But as I started developing gratitude, now again, that's kind of hard when you're in that depressive state. What do I have to be grateful for,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But I just started small and, kept going. I realized that while that book was really on point with a lot of things, what they got wrong was it's not chapter 7, it's chapter 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't develop that foundation of gratitude, because I like to refer to gratitude as the law of increase. If you don't develop that foundation of gratitude, how can you increase your confidence? How can you increase your success? How can you increase your wealth? How can you increase your happiness, fulfillment, purpose, whatever?
Mm.
It was never chapter 7, chapter 14, chapter 20, it's chapter 1.
Mm.
And again, that gratitude helped me be able to that immediate reframe that I was talking about, where now if a negative thought pops into my mind, I immediately reframe that and I contribute that to the development of me understanding gratitude because it does rewire our brains.
Mm.
And it's a superpower.
Mm. I always put gratitude hand in hand with love,
Yes.
because you have to learn to love yourself before you can love other people. And if you find it difficult to love yourself, that gratitude for things that are happening for you become more and more difficult. You just want to push it away. No, it's not. I wasn't meant to have that. That wasn't, I don't deserve that. But if you have a love for yourself, you can accept it. My grandmother, who died in the 1970s when she was 96, so she remembers Queen Victoria's funeral. So she's another generation behind. So her wisdom and her view on life comes from living through 2 world wars, and having 13 children. And every single night she'd get down on her knees and pray. Even at the age of 95, 96, we could hear her praying if she stayed over at our house. And she used to say to me, so I was 14 when she died. Um, you've always got to look for the silver lining and count your blessings. And she said, sometimes it's really hard to find them, but they're there. There are blessings all around. You've just got to look harder.
Yeah.
And I've always remembered that. And that's what you're grateful for. Because even if you go, well, nobody loves me and this is wrong and that's wrong and that's wrong, there will be something. Oh, the sun just came out. Oh, it stopped raining. Whatever. There will be something that you can go, that's my signal that, the world is okay. It's the right way round, and I can carry on and I can keep going. Gratitude is such a powerful emotion. I can see how so with your daughter now, knowing the childhood you had and what she's experiencing, a different world entirely, but how do you help her to be confident? Have you got anything that you say to her, or is she already like delightfully confident and you're like, oh, I wish I'd been like that when I was her age?
Well, in in my book, I talk about that I think we are all born confident. I really do, because I've known a lot of kids, and she's one of them, but they're all so confident, right? They don't fall and then assume that walking is not for them,
Yeah.
right? They don't. They don't start speaking and then get mumbled up with their words and assume that they're never just going to speak, so they just might as well not talk.
Mm.
It goes against nature, right? It's inherent within us. And watching her just development, it reinforces that fact that we're all born and built with that potential. It's already within us.
Mm.
And if something's already within us, I liken it to like a seed. If you have a seed of potential within you, which we all do, even if the seed is very small, what does a seed require to grow? Just any seed. It requires attention, right? You have to take care of it. You have
Yeah.
to plant it, right? You have to sow it. You have to nurture it. You have to water it, give it appropriate nutrients, make sure it has sunlight. You have to cultivate it,
Yeah.
right? But the seed, it's inherent within the seed, the purpose and potential.
Yes.
If it is planted, the seed doesn't question its worth. The seed doesn't question whether it has a purpose.
Mm.
Seed sprouts into action and becomes what it is designed to become. We all have that seed within us
Mm.
through self-care, self-love, a nurturing environment, right?
Yeah.
External and internal. We can become that, potential,
Mm.
just like a oak tree. And you never look at a acorn and it's so small, yet it can become this humongous tree and live for hundreds of years and
Yeah.
provide shade for generations and produce millions and millions of offspring. But it starts off really, really tiny.
Mm.
And that just gives me hope that no matter what's going on with any of our lives, we all have that seed of profound, untapped potential within us. All it needs to do is just be cultivated, loved, nurtured, and we can sprout into action. It's
Mm.
such a profound analogy, but it's so true.
We are, as a human race, part of nature.
Yep.
So it makes perfect sense, that analogy, that we have been gifted with that potential. and what we always say in Collaboration Global that everyone has a genius within them. Some people know what their genius is, it's shining out of them, and they know maybe they're an artist or a musician or something that becomes kind of natural for them, and they think everyone can do this, it's really easy. But actually, they've taken what their natural talent is and they've honed it and they've worked on it and they've become very competent and a genius, people would say, at that. But sometimes it's the genius of being a homemaker. Sometimes it's the genius of hospitality. Sometimes it's the genius of being able to connect people together. You never quite know what your genius is, but when you kind of work on who you are and what you love to do and what you love about you, without being like, oh no, I'm not this, without being deprecating or pushing away your potential, you'll discover it. You'll discover where that seed is, and when you start watering it and it starts to bubble over. So yeah, I love that analogy, and I do often on my walks pick up an acorn and kind of I marvel that tree there came from a tiny little thing like that. It just kind of blows your mind, doesn't it, that nature is so powerful and yet we're quite adept at destroying it quite quickly. That's a whole other story. But
Yep.
yeah. So on the day when we got together and we delivered our TED Talks with some, excuse me, amazing other people as well, what was going through your mind? What was what made you come all the way over to the UK? Was there a TED Talk in the US that you could have done, or did you just thought, I want to go to England?
Yeah, it was funny. It was serendipitous, really. I just kind of came across um the name Maid Marian Way, and it stuck out to me.
Oh, wow.
And I follow intention and energy, and I just kept coming back to that name, and I just wanted to learn more. So it was a natural fit for me, the theme being creativity through adversity. And I did have a story of adversity.
Mm.
And I it was more of just an alignment with the theme of the event for me, because I really wanted to share that story of adversity to help others. But what was going through my mind that day, I was a complete nerd. Oh my gosh. So I'm at the point now, it used to be speaking was my absolute biggest fear. Uh, it was 1 year to the almost to the week when I had delivered my very first keynote address to the time I delivered my TEDx talk, literally
Oh,
1 year.
amazing.
Before my first keynote, I went into the bathroom and cried several times. I was kind of a mess. But I did it anyway, right? Because I was in this journey of just, if it's for growth, try it.
Yeah.
TEDx was a little bit more intimidating because you have to memorize your
Oh,
speech.
yeah.
And I am, I took an acting class like as an elective in college.
Right.
And I could not ever memorize anything. And
Oh,
so I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be hard. This is going to be, and I practiced so many times, Jill. I'm sure you did
yeah,
too.
yeah, yeah.
You just practice until the point where almost you're so just you're almost tired of talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
because if you that's you just you have to be able to just go up there and nail it and memorize it. That's
Yeah.
not easy.
No. Not at all. I mean, some people find it easier than others, obviously. And I think some people that are in the acting professional Amdram are used to kind of learning lines, and they have a way of doing it. And I've done a little bit of Amdram in the past. So I know what you mean about, I should be able to remember this. It should, but because it was so important, the message was so
Yeah.
important, there was this element, this extra pressure we were putting on ourselves of, don't get it wrong. You need to do this. And I don't know about you, but the more I said it out loud to myself, to the wall, to the cushions, to my husband, to whoever would listen, it began to sound like and it was like, that's my stop, that's my point, that's my stop. And I'm like, I don't want it. I want it to be a conversation. I want us to be able to look at somebody in the audience and give that point at that, say it to them. And the person that's nodding, I want to, be able to draw them in. So I was worried that I would overrun. That was my biggest fear. And I did my talk, so it went for 16 minutes, and we were told anything over 20 minutes, you're not going to be counted, because ultimately we wanted it to go onto the TED website, didn't we? So did you have to do any major adjustments for how much? Because I don't know about you, I had too much to say. And so I had to bring it back. So I brought it back to 16 minutes, but even on the day, I did 19 minutes and 54 seconds. So
Are
don't
you serious?
ask me. Yeah, don't ask me what those other 3 minutes were, but I shoved it in anyway. I just
I
thought,
didn't realize it went on that. I guess I didn't realize that. Because when you're watching it, live, it feels like it's so quick, right?
yes, yes. If only on stage it felt quick.
Yeah, I know. That's right. Oh,
So
amen to that.
did you, so for people that are listening that are going, oh, I've always wanted to do a TED talk, that would be amazing. And so firstly, how did you feel the experience for you? Did it go quickly? Did you have to change too much on the day, or was there anything you do differently?
Actually, no. So my TEDx talk, I didn't want to go longer than 15 minutes anyway.
Hmm.
Just because I wanted to kind of get on stage and I wanted to be a little blimp on there and just go.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't want to forget anything,
Yeah.
so I my original draft of my talk was very long,
Yeah.
and there were parts I just couldn't memorize. And when you write, it looks all very important,
You don't want to miss anything out. You want to keep that sentence because that sentence sounded great, and then you can't remember that sentence. And
But if you can't remember it, it's not meant to be. That
yeah,
was that
yeah,
was something I really, really had to come to grips with. And ultimately, is any part of it redundant? Some of it was. So
mm,
I cut out things that were redundancies and just tried to figure out the clearest point to get to the deepest space in the less amount of time.
yeah.
Yeah, there's 100 things I would have changed about it. I was nervous. I have a nervous laugh when I'm nervous.
Mhm.
I was like a little embarrassed about it afterwards, but what can you do?
Yeah.
Ultimately, it made me sound authentic. So it's fine, all well and good. Things happen for a reason, I guess. But yes, I didn't want to be on stage for very long because, again, I'm not a great memorizer. So I just kind of
Mm.
wanted to just,
What's interesting, people might be listening to go, why didn't you use auto cue? Why didn't you use slides to remind you? Why didn't you use cue cards? And we were kind of advised against a lot of that, weren't we?
yeah,
And they're all possible. So for me, when I normally speak at events, I'll have some slides, which are more for me than anybody else. It'll be a pretty picture, but that will be my cue for the next bit that I'm going to be talking about. It will be relevant to the talk, obviously, not just any old slide, but it isn't text, it isn't diagrams, anything like that. It's just an image that takes me on to the next bit. And we were advised, don't use slides. And I was like, oh no, how am I going to remember it? Which made it even more difficult for me because this is what I'm used to. The last 10, 15 years, that's how I present. But anyway, we got through it and we did it in the end. Um, what would you do differently, do you think, if you had a chance again? Hopefully we will. Maybe we'll get to do the TED instead of the TEDx. We'll be called upon. We'll get that phone call and say, come down and do your TED talk. What would you do differently?
gosh, differently. I think I'm happy with my talk. I think one of the things I would have done differently is not so much put so much pressure on myself. When you do this something big, when you do a TED talk or TEDx talk or publish a book or any big thing, start a company,
Hmm.
the enormity of the pressure you can put on yourself is mentally not healthy, right?
Yeah, true.
So one of the things I would have done differently would have been probably post talk to um one of the things you're supposed to do is, and I help you a little bit, really get on social media, put the word
Mm.
out. I think I sent 4,000 emails
Wow.
to different people, about my talk, but it burnt me out.
Yeah.
And then I had to take a step back from social media and basically everything for 2 weeks
Gosh, yeah.
because I got to that burnt out point and I said, this is not why I became an entrepreneur,
Yeah, it's,
right?
just common sense kicked in because it's so easy to get carried away and it becomes so important. And you're thinking about all those people that need to see it. And you're thinking about all those people that have the same problem as you. And you want it to be shared out there, not just purely so that it's getting views, which obviously we want anyway, because that's a good thing, but so they get the message. But at the same time, they'll still be there 2 days later, 5 days later, 2 weeks later. You can't take your foot off the gas, can't you? So the common sense has to go, hang on a minute. It's not good for you, what you're doing. You have to come back. Knowing you took those 6 weeks away from social media a couple of years ago, do you still do that every so often? Do you refresh and go back to no sugar, no this, no that, and kind of go back to zero and reset yourself?
Absolutely. Anybody can get off track,
Mm.
and again, I'm not perfect. Nobody is, right? So, yes, just 2 weeks ago, I got off social media completely. I stopped posting, stopped commenting, just I deleted all the apps from my phone
That's a
because
good one.
I
I
was,
mean, I'm
yes,
impressed. I'm impressed with that. Well done.
I deleted all the apps from my phone, and you know what I did? I cleaned my entire house. I needed to get grounded again and
Yeah,
clean, just get rid of the old, bring in the new.
lovely.
So I cleaned top to bottom my entire house. I gardened I really wanted to get my hands dirty, right?
Right.
Get off social media, get off the computer in general.
Mm.
And you know what? I thought it was so important back then, even just back then, a month ago. I reset myself. So we can do this at any point in time. If
Yeah.
at any point in time you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling depressed, you're feeling anxious, it's not necessarily you.
Mm.
It's the world around you, all these societal pressures, pressures to be perfect, pressures to get views, pressures to get engagement.
Mm.
Reset. The best thing you can do is to stop, reset, get grounded again, learn what's important again.
Mm.
And if at any point in time you're on your phone, and this is one of the biggest problems ever, if
Yeah.
it, if at any point in time you're on your phone and your child comes up to you and says they want to play and you say, I just gotta, you might have an issue, right? I
Mm.
can say this from my personal experience. So it might be time to take a break because these devices are dopamine enhancing and addictive. We know this, right?
Yeah.
That's how they are.
They're designed that way, aren't they? That's
Yep.
the whole point. They're designed that way.
Yep.
And it's a strong person that can put them down and walk away. We've always had a rule in our house: none at the dinner table. When you're not allowed to do that. And once or twice, my kids have gone, "Mother," and oh, sorry, and just put the phone out of the way. It's so easy to get sucked in, and it's having an awareness that it's not essential. Do you know what? You could be off of social media for 2 days before anybody really notices. It's funny, isn't it? They go, "Oh, Jill hasn't been posting for a little while. Maybe she's on holiday." Maybe they'd leave it for a month before they said anything to me.
Yep.
So it's we're not as essential as we like to think we are.
Yep.
Um, and that's a good thing because we
Yep.
don't need to be essential in that world. It's good to be visible in that world, but you can create it so that it's automated. You can get other people to help you. But we don't need to be tied to it. I was listening to a debate the other day about whether employees should answer their emails out of hours. And it's like, why would a boss be emailing out of hours expecting a response? There should already be that tacit understanding that, like, I'm sending you an email at 7 p.m., but you don't answer it till tomorrow at 9 a.m. when you're back in the office or when you're starting work from home, whatever. Um, Funnily enough, my VA is on holiday this week and she's just done some work for me. And I'm like, "You on holiday? What are you doing?" But she went, "Oh, well, I just have my laptop anyway. And I just thought I'd do that quick." Bless her. She loves what she does. This is the thing. And this is when you're working and you've got your own business and you love what you do, it is really hard to kind of just move away a little bit. But I don't know about you, but every month I try and have like a couple of days away, whether it's weekend or whatever. But that is like, if I'm away with my husband, then he's the focus and the phone goes down. And then the app comes up saying, "You've only used your phone for 26% less or 50% less than you did last week." Yes,
Yes.
that's a win. That's a win.
Yes. Yes.
Listen, Tara, there are so many people that you can help, not only with your story, and we will put the TEDx link in the show notes so people can come and listen to that later. It's not as long as mine, so you won't have to listen to it as long. Um, what is your message to people now if they're listening and they're feeling that life is tough, that they are struggling to see the rainbow, they're struggling to get out of bed in the morning, they feel they have zero confidence and they feel like they've got nothing to be grateful for? What piece of advice would you give them today?
We have all been there. And it's a it's okay. It's part of that human journey. Um, there was a quote that changed my perspective on adversity completely. And that book it's another uh success book, but it's Napoleon Hill. Most of us have read it.
Yeah.
Think and Grow Rich, right?
Yeah.
So in Think and Grow Rich, he mentions that the adversity that we face is proportionate to the service we are meant to render to mankind.
Wow.
Wow, right?
Yeah.
We've all gone through adversity. We've all gone through challenges, some greater than others. But how can you turn that pain into purpose? And I've found that when we get out of our own heads and start utilizing our natural skills, talents, abilities, and even the pain that we've had in the past to help someone else, it starts to lessen that pain a little bit within us. And you do that enough times, all of a sudden you're starting to create this ripple effect, this virtuous cycle. Gratitude's inevitable, confidence becomes inevitable, personal development, increase, success, because you're getting outside of yourself to help someone else. And you do that enough times, the ripple effect of your love, compassion can change the world. So if anybody is going through this, just know that you're not alone. Know that it's normal. There's nothing wrong with you. But how can you utilize this pain, this emptiness that you're feeling to inspire somebody else? Take care of yourselves though, because that's so important. It's so important. You have to water yourself first. So again, thinking of yourself as a plant, right?
Yeah.
If you're a little seedling and you're wilting, you need to water yourself first before you can help the other seedlings, right?
You need to give yourself that TLC. Absolutely. I think what you're saying about turning pain into purpose, it reminds me of the Viktor Frankl book, Man's Search for Meaning, and the Edith Eger book about the choice. We all have a choice which way we turn. And if we choose to go and help another human being, no matter how small that might be, it might be a smile on your walk to work in the morning. It might be giving someone your seat. It might be, helping somebody cross the road. Whatever it is, it makes you feel good. You're not doing it for them, you're doing it for you. And that's feeding you, and that will feed you, and that will make you stronger bit by bit the more you can help people. In our community at Collaboration Global, if people come to me and go, so what's in it for me, Gill? I don't understand. How am I going to make money out of this group? If I join, what's in it for me? I'm like, yeah, it's probably not the right group for you. If that's your first criteria, your first priority. But when somebody comes to me and goes, I love the energy in the room. It's amazing. I'd love to help. I don't really know what I could do, but I would really like to help. I'm like, we don't know how you can help, but come in and we'll find something, because that's the attitude that we're after. If you want to come in and support people in our community, they want to support you as well. And like boats in the harbour, when people share together and support each other and the tide comes in, all the boats are going to rise. And that's why we're on this planet, to be there for each other. And the thing that connects us all is this invisible thread of love. Can't see it, we can't touch it, but it's there. And it starts with you loving yourself, knowing you're worthy, knowing you're valued, if not by the people immediately around you, by the rest of humanity. We need to value each other. And from there, you can take that first step forward, lots of little steps. And I think one of the first things is, as you say, cut off the things that are causing you harm, cut off the things that are causing you distress. So if you're being bullied somewhere, don't take the message on the phone, get rid of some of the apps. If you're feeling stressed about anything, don't watch the news on TV. It's not going to help. It's just those little things that you can do, whether it's putting good food into your body, taking that little bit of exercise, preferably in nature, or surrounding yourself with people that love you and value you and want the best for you, as you will for them, and make yourself valuable to them because of how you view them and support them as well. Listen, Tara, this has been an incredible conversation. I really appreciate your openness and your honesty and sharing how it's been for you to have this childhood and growing up. And many, many people are going to resonate with that story, being the other one and not being the clever one or the pretty one or whatever it is. We always see these things in ourselves, and we all have our difficulties as a result of things that have happened to us in the past. There's a way through, but we have to make the choice, and we have to take the action, and we have to find the meaning and our own genius and plant the seed in ourselves for what potential we can reach. So you've given us some valuable lessons today. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If people would like to contact you and have a chat personally, what's the easiest way for them to get hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on pretty much any social media platform. LinkedIn, I'm on there quite a bit. You can also check out my website, TaraLaFonGooch.com.
That's all the names. TaraLaFonGooch.com.
That's it.
Brilliant. Thank you. We will put those in the show notes, obviously. And hopefully we can persuade Tara to come along to one of our Collaboration Global sessions, and you might meet her there as well. And we have those on the last Tuesday of every month, 3 till 5 p.m. British summertime at the moment. We'd love to have you join us and listen and meet some of our members and see what lovely things they're up to as well. But thank you again, Tara. It's been an absolute joy.
Thank you.